What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Alright, so before I get into this video, I want to give a shout out to the brother Jeremy Tyler for once again showing love to the channel with a donation, a $10 donation via the PayPal. It leaves a note saying, if Shaq stayed in Orlando and Penny Hardaway never got hurt, how many championships do you think they would have won? Well, to be honest with you, I still don't know. I'm still not convinced that they would have won a championship. And I'll tell you why. Because even if Shaq stayed in Orlando and Penny Hardaway didn't get hurt, they were still having problems, which is partially why he left in the first place. Remember Shaq? Because remember, the media was already starting to hype Penny up with the little Penny commercials, and the media was already playing little games then, trying to pit Shaq and Penny against one another. And Shaq was starting to fall for the bait. Remember there was the commercial that I think it was a commercial where it was a little Penny doll behind Shaq or something. He punched the doll. You know what I'm saying? So he was already starting to feed into that crap then. So I'm not sure if inevitably some of the same things that happened with him and Kobe would have happened to Penny, even though Penny was a lot more differential to Shaq. But there may have been pressure for him to start being less differential, especially if he improved as a player the way that we projected that he would. So what I think should have happened, or would have had to have happened, is they would have needed a better coach. I'm just not convinced that Brian Hill was a championship level coach. I know they got to the finals, but I just can't see, still to this day, how that Magic team got swept by the Rockets. I just don't understand it. I understand that they got full of themselves, full of hubris and all of that, but man, that Magic team should have been, even with the U factor involved, that still should have been a competitive series at the very least. So I'm not convinced that Brian Hill is that championship level coach. So in my scenario, if Shaq stayed after '96, and Penny Hardaway was healthy, then of course, in '96 they lost in the conference finals. So in '97 and '98, you can only imagine that they would have gotten better. And if let's say, for instance, after another disappointing playoff run in '97, Brian Hill gets fired. Well, who's out there? Well, Phil Jackson's still with the Chicago Bulls. So are there any great coaches out there at that time? Well, one coach that comes to mind I think would have been out there was Chuck Daly. At the time, Chuck Daly in real life came back to coach the Orlando Magic briefly in like the late '90s, and I think he retired. But then maybe in this situation, Chuck Daly, who we all know got the most out of Dennis Rodman, who's a troubled soul. Maybe Chuck Daly could have squashed a lot of that shit. And plus, he just was a better coach anyway than Brian Hill. So, yeah, it's possible. Let's say by '98, they overtake the Bulls. Let's say by '98, they overtake the Bulls, and they go to the finals and face the Orlando Magic, and let's say they win a championship. Simultaneously, we see the San Antonio Spurs rising in the West. So let's say they go back to the finals in the abbreviated '99 season, and let's say they win another championship. Now, this is the thing. That means there's no Shaq and Kobe in the West. So as the Bulls age out, and let's say Penny Hardaway now is in the prime of his career, because by 2000, Penny would have been what? His late 20s? Shaq would have been right in his prime. Yeah. With the right coaching, the right team around them, the right chemistry with the team. Because I still think there have been growing pains. I mean, at minimum, I think they could at least repeat. And the best case scenario, right before the arrival of the Sacramento teams and the Mavericks and all those other teams, in addition to the Sonics, in addition to the Spurs, man, I think they could have three-peated. Very well, yeah. They could have three-peated. Maybe more. But I do think it's harder. People don't understand how hard it is to win multiple championships. Like, teams come at you. Hell, teams come at you after you win one title. Look at the Bucks. Look how hard it is for them to keep their edge. So it's hard for me to sit here and say, oh, they would have won 5, 6 in a row. That's that stupid-ass ESPN fanboy talk. At the end of the day, I mean, I could possibly see a three-peat, but it would have been, they would have had to keep their edge, and that's pretty much what I'm thinking, They would have had to show up the roster. Maybe in this scenario, because look, in this scenario, maybe Nick Anderson regains his confidence. Because we know the 95 finals just robbed Nick Anderson of his confidence. He was never the same player after that. So, yeah. That's kind of how I see it, man, I kind of see it like they also... And another thing that comes to mind before I go forward. I think they would have had to have, in addition to having a better coach, they would have had to have added some sort of, and a couple of veteran presence on that team, some mentors. Maybe, let me see, 95. Maybe they could have talked Moses Malone into coming out of retirement one more year in 96, or after that, maybe a Kevin Willis, maybe some veteran guard, and a veteran big, I don't know, off the top of my head. Someone veteran, that's all I know. Maybe Terry Cummings or something. Maybe a Ricky Pierce or something. They would have needed some veterans on this team because there were just way too many young players at that time. So that's just my take on it, man. So, I can't give you no definitive answer because there's no definitive answer here. But I'll just say, at the very least, I think they would have won a championship. And at the most, maybe 2 or 3. Because I think it's just very difficult to keep your edge to win multiple titles. The reason why the Boston Celtics was able to do it so many different years, a little bit of luck, and a lot had to do with talent. They had all the talent. But anyway, that's all I got to say about it.